It can happen to any one of us at any time. A crack appears in the world around us, small at first, but it's enough for us to get a glimpse, enough for us to see that beyond all this is something else. But what? Against our better judgment, the lure of the unknown draws us to peek through, and once we do, there's no turning back. Because that crack inevitably begins to expand until you're no longer looking through it, or even at it. You are in it. And the place you started, the world you knew, it's so small that the idea you'd ever be able to get back to it, well, I don't need to say any more. So what is this place? It depends who you are. But one thing is the same for everyone. Peeking behind the curtain of forbidden knowledge in this way, it shatters your sense of yourself, of reality. And that is a very dark place to be. I invite you to be a tourist and step into the minds of those people lost to the unknown, and the scarce few who found a way out, to hear their terrifying stories. But I must warn you, once you climb inside, I can't promise that you won't end up counting yourself among them. What they have to say will change you, bring near what should be kept far, far away. Because there are things we're not meant to know. We're not meant to know. An anthology of horror, now transmitting from SpectreVision Radio.
When you have a sec, please rate and review us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen. Thank you from the bottom of our dark little hearts. There's something unsettling about found audio. Voices without faces, stories without names. Fragments captured in passing, recorded anonymously, as if they were never meant to be heard, and yet, here they are. In that absence, the silence feels occupied. These aren't just recordings, they're remnants. And in the darkness, something binds us. Unseen, unknown, but shared. Welcome to the world beyond the veil. This is Geist. In a space where people who reside in the dark come together, their stories intertwine, forming something larger, something cinematic. This is more than a recording. It's a moment where the unseen finds its voice. Recorded live at Toronto Comicon, these recordings are raw and immediate, capturing the energy of the moment. After meeting listeners who stepped forward to share their own experiences, we documented something honest and unforgettable. So, without further ado.
So this story, again, is old. When I was about 16 years old, I was sleeping solidly. And then for whatever reason, got up and I opened my eyes and I saw what I thought was a silhouette of a very young girl, like 9 years old, right in front of me. I was like still, had just calmness in me. That's what I felt. She kind of shifted back and forth, maybe out of curiosity. And then slowly I closed my eyes and that was it. I tried to do some research. The house where I live, most houses were built in the 1900s in my neighborhood in downtown Toronto. But I asked the previous owner if he knew anything about the house before. He said he did not know. Again, I wasn't scared. And that's the story of me seeing a ghost.
So I grew up in a house that was haunted. I never met my grandfather, although I should say yes, I have. My grandfather died before I was born. We called our grandfather, was Dan. So when I was like 8 years old, I came out of my bedroom and I told Mom that I saw Dan. And Mom was like, no, you didn't. And I said, yes, I did. And I started to describe him. Now, he is a Quaker, or was a Quaker, which means there were no pictures of him. So it's not like I could have a picture for a reference of what he looked like or what he did. And I described how he sat in his chair smoking a pipe, how he had a large gout on his neck, how he sat with his one leg on his knee. And then I continued, and she started to cry because I was describing him so well that she knew that I had visited with my grandfather. The second story, I was sleeping one day and I woke up and there was a woman on the end of my bed in a white gown with a red sash. I thought it was my mom. So I said, "Morning, Mom." No response. Kind of rubbed my eyes, looked again. She was still there. So I went to nudge her with my foot, like to kick her to get her attention. My foot went right through her off the end of the bed. The ghost turned and looked at me. It was like a black face with no real facial features. At that point in time, I started to get really afraid. I closed my eyes, opened them again, and I saw her walking out my bedroom into the hallway.
I was born in Nova Scotia, so Dartmouth, Halifax area, which is kind of already known to have a lot of spooky stuff, especially on Citadel Hill. So there was this one night where I was living with my ex, and it was a crazy snowstorm, and he kind of sucked. So he made me go move his car from kind of street parking to his building's parking. And so I went to go move the car, and I'm talking crazy snowstorm. I would the wipers were on, and every time I'd wipe, they'd just get completely covered again. Visibility was non-existent. So I pulled up around the building to find a parking spot, and I wasn't really sure where visitor was. So I was just trying to kind of find anywhere I could tuck my car into. And then I finally pull my car into a spot, and then the snow is getting heavier. And then all of a sudden, I just can't see anything. And then I hear this crazy, intense, scream, guttural, horror movie scream. It sounds like a woman. And she's like, "Oh my God, I hate this. I hate you. I hate this town." And I was completely in shock because no one was outside at this point. It was such a bad snowstorm. And I didn't see anyone else. I literally thought it was just me in the car. And I'm in the car, and it gets to this point where I'm completely covered. I turned it off. I wasn't wiping away the snow anymore, and I was in complete darkness. She's screaming, and then I hear a door slam and a car screech away really quickly. I had to get out on my own. And even when I got out and looked around, I didn't see car tracks. I didn't see anything. I didn't see any signs that anyone else was outside with me.
I had a ghost cat. And the funny thing is, it wasn't even my cat. I moved into a house, and the previous owners had had a cat, which I found out later had died in the house. But every night at 11:07, we would hear a meow in our bedroom. And I thought I was going nuts. So I had some other people come, and sure enough, they heard it too. And they said, "Where's the cat?" And we didn't have a cat. Then we eventually moved from our one town to another town, and we thought, okay, that's all for the cat. But then the cat started meowing in the basement at random times. It was really strange. Never really bothered us. We just heard it. Then we moved a third time. We heard the cat a few times, and that was it. We also used to see the cat out of the corners of our eye. It was a little black cat that would just go scooting by. Never bothered us. It was just kind of fun.
This happened maybe 3 years ago. It was the first time I was visiting my family in Laos, between Vietnam, Cambodia, Thailand, and China. Not a lot of people go there. And just for the backdrop, it's a mix of very similar traditions to Thailand, which are very ghost heavy. You'll walk the streets and very often you'll see altars set up to spirit. And I was visiting my family in a very smaller town called Pak Se in the far south. It's nestled directly against the Mekong River, and it has seen its fair share of incidents and blood, whether it be from American wars to just historical wars with the kingdoms. Bridging two pieces of Pak Se is, and I'm going to butcher this, the Suphanuvong Bridge. It was built very recently in the past few decades. In fact, my grandfather and his friends, before they fled Laos, had a hand in building that bridge. And ever since that bridge has been around, there have been a whole host of weird incidents around it. It said do not cross the Suphanuvong Bridge at night. And we didn't know that until we crossed it at night when we were coming home from the mall to basically the village end of Pak Se. We got home, it was the dead of night, and my family and I heard screaming on the bridge. We don't know if it was someone wailing by on a motorcycle or not, because motorcycles very common there. And then we got back to my grandmother's sister's house. She was sat there, but my grandma's sister, and an old family friend nestled around drinking tea. And my grandma's sister, she said, "You didn't cross the bridge at night, did you? What time did you get here?" "Oh, like 15 minutes ago." "You came here at night?" The three of them started treating ghost stories of why not to cross a bridge at night. But apparently there were so many incidents around this bridge, Suphanuvong Bridge. I was wondering why, and then my grandma broke it down. Decades ago, an airplane was flying. This is where the Mekong meets the much smaller Zedong River. That airplane had fallen. There was some sort of incident. Missed the bridge completely. It had sunken into the river directly below the bridge. No one survived, but the bridge was intact. But ever since, people have just been having all sorts of crazy stories around there. My auntie's husband, my uncle, actually died on that bridge. What happened was he was driving on it, he fell off the motorcycle, and he hit his head on a nail. So if you're a fan of hauntings, go to Laos.
So when I was a lot younger as a baby, I had a health complication and my parents thought I was dying. Something to do with the superstitions of growing up in an Asian home. And when they brought me to the doctors, they couldn't figure it out, but I was coughing blood as a child. My parents were just freaking out. And then in the middle of the night, one time, my mom told me a story where she ran to the room, she heard me coughing and freaking out, rolling over to a little baby. And she said she saw my dead grandpa looking at me. And he passed away a long time ago through a a tragic accident where like the building caved in on him. So my mom was freaking out. He just saw my dead grandpa looking at me, holding my hand, telling her everything's going to be fine. After she like digested her feelings and just like all the emotions she was going through, she was downstairs in the living room and she saw my grandpa carrying me down the stairs. And my mom was in complete shock. And like, as you would expect, she didn't know what to do. The grandpa brought me outside, was peeking to the window, looking down my mom, holding my hand. And apparently I was standing up for the first time as a baby. And he said like, it's all going to be okay. Just trust me. And then that's where she ended the story. Yeah, all was fine.
So Friday night, my friends and I went out to a cemetery just outside of our town, maybe 15 minutes away. And we thought everything was going normal. We normally go out with a spirit box and EMF and all of that. We thought this time was going to be like every other time. Nothing normally happens, but this time was different. We were walking through the cemetery when we all get this insane, sick, and like pushy feeling. But we pushed on because that's what we do. We're ghost hunters. But then this mist like floods the graveyard and wafts through us. And we could have sworn it was a person. It almost looked like a little girl. And she stopped and stared at us. And as we got closer, just went away. We pushed forward because we were curious. And we stopped for just a second. And it just looked through us. Like it was just staring back at us. And we flashed our light at it and it was gone. We turned to the right and like we heard a bunch of things breaking. It was so weird. We were literally being watched from like the trees almost. Then we started hearing these sounds like someone was nearly like talking to us or trying to make some sort of words out. But we couldn't make it out. Nothing was working. The EMF was going crazy. And surely sometimes that can be explained with like electricity, but we were in the middle of nowhere. Absolutely no one, no town, nothing is near us. There was no explanation for this. And as we tried to leave, one of us like felt pulled back. Like they were trying to get us not to leave. It was insane. And this all happened like Friday night.
More after this.
I've been going to the Johnston Cemetery in Berry Hill for several years now with friends, and now I've transferred it on to my daughter. But one of my best stories ever, we had spent an evening there in two groups. So we came out with two cars, and we used to park the cars backwards towards the fence and make sure the headlights were facing the road. So as we get to our cars, my friend who is in the farthest, he turns on his car, and right in front of him at about 11:30, 11:45 at night, a young Mennonite boy rides by on a 10-speed bicycle. Goes past his headlights. There's about 40 feet of darkness. Then he passes my headlights. I pull out almost immediately after him, and I turn left, and I start driving down the road. And that's when I noticed there's nobody there on a bicycle at all. We've driven about 7,500 feet. I hit the brakes, get out of the car, go back to my friend's car, and I'm like, did you just catch? He's like, the Mennonite on the bike? I'm like, yeah. Where did he go? We never saw him again, and it's about a kilometer worth of a drive till you get to the next stop sign. At no point was he there. Great experience.
So when I was I believe I was 9 years old, and this was in my old house. I was sleeping in the computer room because my room is like really cold. I'm a very anemic person, so I can't be in the cold at all. In the middle of the night, I would always get like woken up because I would hear like loud crashes. And my mom would just say like, oh, okay, like it's just like the house like settling down. And I never used to believe it. I've always had like this like weird feeling whenever I would like go into my room or I would go into the basement or anything of that sort. Like I would always get a really bad feeling. And my dog would start barking in my room and in the basement at the exact places that I felt really uncomfortable. And that was like really kind of it for me. Like I genuinely did not really like to be in those rooms. And one night, my mom was actually sleeping with me because I was really scared and I got woken up by a loud crash. My mom said she didn't hear anything. I did. I'm sorry, I'm like getting like emotional a little bit, like even talking about it. Like I woke up and I went around my house just to see if there was anything there because I don't know whose first instinct is to do that, but I guess I was very brave. And then I went back into the computer room. And right as I walked in, I saw like this light coming from my mom's room, like my mom's actual room. And I got so scared, I jumped into the bed and then I covered myself with a blanket, trying to like go to sleep, trying to not like look out or anything. And then I still saw that bright light. It was getting brighter and it actually went into the computer room, went around my mom, went around my head, and then came out of the door. Sorry, I'm like getting like goosebumps. But it went out the door and then it went into my room. And that was like terrifying. And then I never went back into that room ever again. I'm sorry.
This story was it was in grade 10.
Yeah.
This was 2 years ago for us. We were taking Canadian history and we had a test a few days.
Yeah, it was a few days and we were studying in the
library. We went to the library after school to go and study with another one of our friends. Before this, I don't think any of us really believed in ghosts. Like
I certainly didn't.
Yeah.
But
now it kind of like changed our minds, yeah?
Yeah. Yeah.
We were studying and behind us it was like at the direction of the door. We heard sort of a creak. And at the time there was no one in the library with us. It was like we caught it at a really empty time, which was nice because it was quiet. So we all turned to look and no one was there. No one came. The door was as it was, nothing really happened. But when we turned back, we noticed that one of our textbooks had flipped to a different page.
These books, they were open to like pretty much like near the middle, right? So there's no way that it should have been like the wind or something that was like blowing these like pages open. Like
and it was a page about, it was like a list of Canadian artists. It was like a page about different Canadian artists. His name was Tom Thompson.
Thompson, yeah.
And Tom, this artist, he kind of lived near our area, we noticed, like when we were kind of reading about him.
Mm-hmm. When we looked back to the door, like after that happened, it was like closed. And again, there's nobody here. Yeah, there's like no breeze, no like anything, right? So it's like the door creaked open and then it closed all on its own. And in the meantime, while that was happening, this textbook was open to the page of this guy, right? So it's just, I feel like
2 points.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But anyways, so now
I don't know.
I guess our beliefs were kind of questioned there.
I'd say that, yeah.
So I live and work in the city of Vaughan. And a few years ago, we were at one of the community centers in the city doing some first aid training, as you do. And we were sitting in the big room there with a presenter, just kind of minding our own business. And a police officer shows up at the door. And he asks, "Did anyone call 911? And we're all looking around going, "No." The presenter stepped aside with the officer to go and talk to him a little bit. I'm sitting next to a colleague of mine, and just being a smartass, I lean over and I'm like, "I bet it was ghosts." The presenter comes back a minute or two later, and he starts off with, "Did anyone ever tell you about the ghost stories around here?" And in my head, I'm going, "Oh my God, I was kidding." So what happened many years ago, and I looked this up, this is true, this did happen, there was a plane crash in that area of Woodbridge. And back when it was all still mostly farmland. And they had a pretty unique problem on their hands, the city at the time, because they had all of these bodies and they needed to identify them. I guess somebody spoke up and said, well, we did just build that new ice rink. So morbid, very morbid, but practical. So understandable. So yeah, that's where they kept everybody until they sorted everyone out. And apparently ever since then, there have been sightings, there have been cold spots, there have been apparently reports of kids running around, of a woman, I believe, I think they said. But one thing that keeps happening is someone keeps calling 911. The operators at the center will get a call from the Woodbridge Arena. There'll be nobody on the line. So they'll come out to the arena, as you do, and just double check and make sure everything is all right. And that's what they were doing that day. Somehow a call got out to 911. Nobody called. And that is the closest I have ever come to an actual ghost encounter.
On Niagara-on-the-Lake, which is a very haunted city, there is a building there that is the oldest pharmacy in all of Canada. When you go in there, it still works as a regular pharmacy. And when you go in, there's two very, very tall windows. The building does not air condition, to let you know. And at the time, I didn't know it was haunted. So when we're in there in August, and of course, being the August sun, the building was very, very warm. But I actually was starting to get very cold. I was looking around for the air conditioning, but I didn't see one. And when you touched my skin, actually, I was freezing. So after moving around a bit and warming up and getting cold and so forth, the owner, and the current owner, was looking and started laughing at me. And I asked what was so funny. And he said, well, the ghost must like you, and then touched me and said, oh, you're really cold. The ghost really loves you. And I said, what do you mean ghost? And he told me about the original owner had passed away there. And when he likes somebody, he makes them cold and freezes you. And basically I said, great. So as we left, I asked the ghost politely to stay where they are and to make someone else cold. And I'm going outside where it's warm, and thank you very much. So later on that evening, when we went on the ghost walk, the person stopped there, was about to tell the story, and I told them what happened earlier in the day. That's the story.
I want to thank every single person that came out to meet us, take pictures, and chat about ghost stories. A huge thank you to the Canadian Podcast Awards for hosting us again at their booth. Geist is created, directed, and edited by Danielle Matar. Sound direction, music, and FX by Beau Jensen. Sound design and music by Jack Staten. Mixing and sound by Adam Esker. Episode artwork is by Grace Bovin. Story scouting from Evan Kolar. Geist logo is from Jake Carruthers. Follow us on Instagram at Geist_podcast, TikTok at Geist Podcast, and YouTube at Geist_podcast. Thank you for listening. Until next time, sleep tight.